In the Harry Potter universe, each witch and wizard has the chance to go to the wizarding school called Hogwarts. Once you enter in that school, you'll be sorted into your Hogwarts house, and they are the following: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. These houses are essentially the sections that Hogwarts has, and each student is sorted into them based on some traits that each house has. In this video, I'll be sorting Riordanverse characters into their Hogwarts houses. To be clear, I will be sorting characters from Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Heroes of Olympus, and the Trials of Apollo. I wanted to include the King Chronicles in the Magnus Chase series too, but there would be too many characters to sort for this video, so tune in for part 2 on that, which I'll post soon. Before moving forward, I will also give a spoiler warning because I'll be going through a lot of characters in many books. With that, let's get started. So to properly sort these characters, let's give a quick run through of the different Hogwarts houses. First is Gryffindor. Gryffindor is probably the most famous Hogwarts house, and people under this section are known to be daring, bold, and chivalrous. They tend to be brave even to the point of recklessness, and are fearless leaders. Some notable Gryffindors are Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, and Ron Weasley. The next Hogwarts house is Hufflepuff. Often dubbed as the most underrated one, Hufflepuff is known for being hardworking, loyal, and honest to the people around them. They are often the most modest and kind people, and some notable Hufflepuffs are Newt Scamander from the Fantastic Beasts movies, Cedric Diggory, and Nymphadora Tonks. Next is Ravenclaw. Students of Ravenclaw are known to be intelligent, creative, ingenious, and innovative thinkers. Some known Ravenclaws are Luna Lovegood, Phileas Flitwick, and Garrick Ollivander. And last but not the least is Slytherin. Like Gryffindor, it's one of the most popular Hogwarts houses. Slytherin students are known to be cunning, determined, ambitious, and strong leaders. Some famous Slytherins are Draco Malfoy, Horace Slughorn, and Voldemort himself. With all that information, let's formally start the sorting. So as you can see over here, I made a tier list, and I'll just place the characters in their specific group once I sort them. So let's start with the first person right here, and it's Annabeth Chase. So from what I've seen online, many fans tend to have mixed opinions when sorting Annabeth, as they're torn on Ravenclaw and Slytherin. Personally, I was also torn between these two houses because Annabeth seems to have traits from both of them. As the daughter of the Wisdom Goddess, Annabeth is naturally intelligent and witty like a Ravenclaw, but she is also determined and resourceful like a Slytherin. I've thought about it more now, and I realized that Annabeth belongs in Slytherin more than Ravenclaw. Annabeth's determination and perseverance to achieve her goals highlight her character more, and her genius intellect serves as a complement to her personality instead of a main trait. With this, I think she belongs there. Next is Caligula from the Trials of Apollo. I'm placing him in Slytherin, and I'm doing this not just because he's a villain, but because he actually has a lot of traits related to the Slytherin house. In the books, Caligula is seen as cruel, cunning, and a clever emperor of the Triumvirate. He proved to be a strong leader as he managed to lead Rome and gain a lot of followers despite his cruelty to his people. His ambition and strength shapes who he is as a person, and I think he would fit well in Slytherin with that kind of attitude. The next one over here is Calypso. I don't know if it's unpopular to say, but I'm actually placing her in Slytherin. Calypso has a major personality switch from her introduction in the Battle of the Labyrinth. There, she was kind and understanding towards Percy, but after getting her heart broken multiple times, she became bitter and even vengeful towards some people. Calypso has been through a lot in her life, but something that I noticed inside her is her feistiness and determination. We saw this in the Dark Prophecy whenever confronted with an issue, as she went headfirst into it to solve it, like when she punched the Blemier immediately without even thinking, just to get rid of them, and when she managed to pick a lock despite having no experience or knowledge on it. Calypso is clever and a bit sneaky, and I think that makes her part of the Slytherin house. Next is Charles Beckendorf, an immediate place to Hufflepuff. Though I considered placing Charles in Gryffindor because of his bravery and chivalry, I realized that Charles belonged better in Hufflepuff. In the books, Charles is praised as a hardworking, loyal, and kind-hearted guy who died a hero to save everyone. His selflessness and openness to people are highlights of who he is, and for that, he belongs in Hufflepuff. The next one here is Chiron. Chiron is an interesting character to sort because I'm kind of torn here. Part of me wants to place him in Gryffindor, but the other tells me to place him in Ravenclaw. Chiron is patient, kind, and really intelligent for his kind. We learn in the books that he's the wisest centaur and is one of the bravest and most daring people out there. Although he has an adventurous heart deep down, Chiron's wit and knowledge overpower that, and I think this makes him the best candidate for Ravenclaw. After Chiron is Clarisse Leroux, the daughter of Ares. Again, a character I'm torn about. Clarisse has many traits of a Gryffindor, like she's brave, daring, bold, and a fearless leader. However, she also shows a lot of signs of a Slytherin through her determination and grit in battle. She managed to lead the Ares cabin on her own, and she tends to hold grudges against people, showing a bit of prejudice that she can have against others, like Slytherin students tend to have in the Harry Potter series. Her fatal flaws, her pride and ambition, and these can get in her way like a lot of Slytherin members. So with all of this, I think she'd do well in Slytherin. Next is Commodus from the Trials of Apollo. Another place to Slytherin. Okay, wow, I'm looking at this tier list right now, and I think I'm placing too many people in Slytherin, but whatever. Going back, Commodus is often dubbed as the dumbest and the weakest from the three emperors that Apollo encounters in the series, but he's still a pretty compelling villain. He manipulates Apollo's emotions because Apollo and Commodus used to date back in the day, and their rich history just complicates Apollo's thoughts in the Dark Prophecy. This just shows how sly, cunning, and smooth with words Commodus is, and a perfect place in Slytherin. The next one is Drew Tanaka. Again, another place in Slytherin. Drew is the former head of the Aphrodite cabin, and she has a lot of Slytherin traits. She's a manipulative and clever leader who will do anything she can to achieve what she wants. This scene when she abuses her charm speak power to her half-siblings just so that she can remain in power over them. This attitude absolutely lands her in Slytherin. After Drew, we have Emmy from the Trials of Apollo. An automatic place in Hufflepuff. Emmy is somebody I consider placing in Gryffindor because of the outstanding bravery she demonstrated in the Dark Prophecy, but I realized that she would be better in Hufflepuff. Emmy is described as loving and caring towards her loved ones, and she's also really open to people, like when she accepted Latirces over to her home. She was so kind that Latirces literally broke down crying out of how touched she felt from that action, and this just brings her to Hufflepuff for me. Next is Ethan Nakamura from PJO. Okay, another Slytherin. Ethan is an absolute Slytherin to me. It's been a while since I reread The Battle of the Labyrinth and The Last Olympian where he appears in, but from what I remember, Ethan was a demigod who followed his goal of wanting balance in the world. This taken after his mother, the goddess revenge Nemesis. Ethan did everything he could to achieve that goal and even lost his eye and joined the dark side for it. This unshakable determination really defines who Ethan is and is a great reason for him to be in Slytherin. Next is Frank Zhang. I'm placing him in Gryffindor. Frank looked like a Hufflepuff in his introduction in The Son of Neptune because of his kindness and understanding to Hazel and a lot of people in the book. However, this all changed in the House of Hades. There, Frank transformed into a warrior who had the right confidence and bravery of a hero. He became Praetor and was a fierce leader to be reckoned with in the Battle of the Necromantion. He became so brave that in the Tyrant's Tomb, Frank even admitted that he wasn't afraid of death anymore. This is further proven because Frank stared death in the eye for a moment and was willing to die for the greater good. Frank developed from an insecure and kind guy to a warrior that defended and protected those he loved. For that, he's an absolute Gryffindor. After Frank is Grover Underwood, another character that belongs in Hufflepuff. Grover is one of the kindest, down-to-earth, and selfless people in the Riordanverse. His personality is pretty much being a Hufflepuff, as he stayed loyal to his friends amidst challenges, and his hard work at finding Pan in the books. Grover is an absolute Hufflepuff, and nobody can change my mind. Next is Hazel Yves from the Heroes of Olympus and the Trials of Apollo. I'm sort of torn here, but I'm placing her in Hufflepuff. I was considering Gryffindor for Hazel because of her immense bravery, but deep down, I realized that she was more of a Hufflepuff because of how much she cares for the people around her. She basically sacrificed herself to save the world at just the age of 12. When she died, she was given the chance to go to heaven in Elysium, but she still denied it so that she could stay with her mother, who was horrible to her multiple times before. Hazel still stayed loyal to her mom, and she would continue to be like this to other characters in the series. This makes her a great candidate for Hufflepuff. The next character is Coach Hedge from the Heroes of Olympus and the Trials of Apollo. I think a lot of people would agree with me here by placing him in Gryffindor. Hedge is probably one of the bravest and most reckless people in these books. He's constantly defended and protected the Seven on their trips on the Argo 2, and he's an all-around fire to the death kind of person. Because of all that, he goes there. Next is Ramirez-Arellano. Okay, so this is interesting. We don't really get that much info on Hyla, but from what we know, she's a strong leader and fighter of the Amazons. She managed to build herself up after experiencing so much hardships in her life, showing a sense of self-preservation, a Slytherin trait. Added to this, she is also very cunning and ambitious, which landed her the position of Queen of the Amazons. With this, I think it's safe to say that Hyla belongs in Slytherin too. Next is Jason Grace. Okay, so hold on, I have to debate on this. I made a couple of videos on Jason to understand his character, and from it all, I realized that Jason was selfless, kind, hardworking, open, and accepting of people. This is seen in the many moments in the Riordanverse. From accepting Nico after Nico came out as gay to Jason, to befriending the least popular kids in Camp Jupiter when he was still Centurion, and to even sacrificing himself to save his friends in the burning maze. I was thinking of placing him in Gryffindor, but I think he's leaning more to Hufflepuff here from the many scenes he has. Next is Josephine. I'm placing her in Ravenclaw. Josephine is Emmy's wife, and she's a great inventor. She's also really kind, and she bonds a lot with Leo Valdez because of their shared love of machinery. With this, I'm placing her in Ravenclaw because of her creativity and her knowledge in inventing. Next is Lavinia Asimov from the Trials of Apollo. I'm placing her in Gryffindor. Lavinia is somebody I've mentioned a few times on my channel as a character I didn't really vibe with that easily in The Tyrant's Tomb, but she grew on me after a few rereads. I was mostly hurt by her betrayal to Camp Jupiter, but she proved to be a hero and a Gryffindor when the need arises. She was brave and a great fighter in battle, which qualifies her in Gryffindor. Next is Leo Valdez. I might be going against a popular opinion here by placing him in Ravenclaw. In the books, Leo is brave, kind, hilarious, insecure, and an overall hero as he sacrificed himself to defeat Gaia in the blood of Olympus. Though these traits sort of sound like a Gryffindor's, I would argue that Leo is more of a Ravenclaw because of how intelligent he really is. Some people in the fandom tend to underestimate just how smart Leo is just because he cracks jokes and plays dumb sometimes, but he's actually really bright for his age. At a young age, Leo managed to solve complex math and build machines with his mother, and he was one of the few demigods who managed to tame and fix Festus. So if you want to know more about Festus, you can check out another video on that, which is linked down below. Anyway, Leo belongs in Ravenclaw because his intelligence isn't something to be brushed off lightly. He's a gifted demigod and he'll get that recognition in Ravenclaw. Next is Luke Castellan. I guess this one is pretty obvious. He's another place in Slytherin. Okay, so where do I need to begin with Luke? His entire character in PJO is about him achieving his goals of justice against the gods with Kronos. He's cunning, clever, intelligent, extremely persuasive, and ambitious enough to join the dark side. So I guess that just makes him a clear shot in Slytherin. Next is Meg McCaffrey from the Trials of Apollo. I'm placing Meg in Gryffindor. Some part of me thought of placing her in Slytherin, but I think she's more of a Gryffindor. She defends Apollo fearlessly from almost any enemy they came across, and her bravery is probably the biggest highlight of her character. After Meg is Nero, another place in Slytherin. I would even argue that he's the worst emperor from the Triumvirate, and he's a definite Slytherin. Like Commodus and Caligula, Nero is sly, manipulative, and ambitious, which brings him to Slytherin pretty well. Next is Nico D'Angelo. Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts on this, but hear me out. If you ask me when I finished PJO for the first time as to what Hogwarts house Nico belongs in, I would have instantly said Slytherin with no hesitation. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like, he was so determined to get his sister back from the dead after the Titan's curse, he holds grudges, and is very resourceful for a kid his age during that time. However, now that I've read almost all the books in the Riordanverse, I would say that my opinion has changed quite a bit. I've expressed multiple times on my channel as to how much I love Nico's character. He's one of my most favorite characters, and I always loved reading about him, even if it didn't start out that way. The more that I read about his character though, I realized that he'd probably belong better in Hufflepuff. Like, hear me out. Though Nico is extremely determined with high willpower, Nico transformed from that vengeful kid to a hero who managed to open himself up to more people. He became loyal and kind towards others, and reading The Sun and the Star made me realize just how much Nico grew as a person. So if I'm going to sort his current self, I'll place him in Hufflepuff instead of Slytherin. Next is Octavian, obviously another Slytherin. Octavian is one of the most ambitious and sneaky people in the Riordanverse. He managed to manipulate the Romans against the Greeks, and he was determined with his goals of gaining power. This just makes him an absolute Slytherin. The next one over here is Percy Jackson. I've heard many thoughts on what Hogwarts house Percy would be in, and from what I've seen, people are torn between Hufflepuff and Gryffindor. Although I understand that Percy's fatal flaw is personal loyalty, which is why he could belong in Hufflepuff, I feel like Percy isn't as patient and hardworking as a Hufflepuff. Instead, he's more of a courageous fighter like a Gryffindor. We've seen Percy fight and attack enemies fearlessly, despite the fact that those enemies were often much more powerful than him. We saw this in a lot of moments in the series, especially in The Lightning Thief when he attacked the Minotaur. Percy was brave enough to attack that beast at the age of 12 without any training whatsoever. And he did another amazing feat of chopping Medusa's head without any fear. This bravery and sometimes reckless attitude lands Percy as a Gryffindor to me. Next is Piper McLean. This might be a hot take, but I think she's Slytherin. I've already expressed a couple of times in my videos that Piper was my least favorite from the 7 because of some reasons, but I'm placing her in Slytherin not just because I dislike her, but because she surprisingly has a lot of traits in Slytherin. In The Lost Hero, we saw Piper rise to the ranks as Aphrodite cabin head, showing some good leadership. She was also pretty determined in her goal of getting Jason to herself, as she even went as far as threatening Drew Tanaka to back off from Jason. Piper also mistrusts people, showing a bit of prejudice that Slytherins have. And overall, I think she'd fit well with Slytherin. After Piper is Rachel Dare. Rachel is going to Ravenclaw mainly because of how witty she could be in the books. It's not talked about in the fandom, but Rachel is pretty smart. She's also creative with her artworks, another Ravenclaw trait, and overall, she uses her intelligence whenever she's confronted with an issue. I don't think it's that much of a popular opinion, but I think she belongs in Ravenclaw. Next is Reyna Ramirez-Arellano. I've seen people say that they think Reyna would do well in Slytherin because of her great leadership and intelligence. And though I agree that she has those traits, I don't really think that's her deep down. To be honest, I place her in Gryffindor. Under her generally tough exterior, Reyna is brave and protective of those she cares about. She managed to accomplish incredibly dangerous feats on her own, and it was all for her people in camp, showing a lot of chivalry inside her. She manages to keep the team together and constantly places others before herself. Reyna also has a sense of honor and a readiness for justice like a Gryffindor, which is why I'm placing her there. Alright, we're almost done. Next, we have Sally Jackson, or Percy's mom. I'm placing her in Hufflepuff. Sally is one of the kindest and most compassionate people in these books. She's caring and loyal to her loved ones, and the people around her mean the world to her. She's open and supportive of her friends and family, and she's one of the nicest people in these books. Like, she has to be in Hufflepuff. Next is... Silena Beauregard. This should be interesting. People would sometimes label Silena as a Slytherin, but I disagree. She's more of a Hufflepuff to me. Silena is a kind, selfless, and loyal friend to have. She literally died to defend her camp, and she loves her friends deeply. This scene with how distraught she was over her boyfriend Beckendorf's death, and how much she loved him. With this, I'm placing her in Hufflepuff. After Silena is Thalia Grace. I'm placing her in Gryffindor. Some people would tell me that Thalia belongs in Slytherin because of her great ambition, but I honestly think she's more leaning to Gryffindor because of her immense bravery. She managed to take down Hades' army at a young age without any fear, and she continues to be heroic and fight for the greater good like a true Gryffindor. This scene when she went as far as to kill Luke in the Titan's Curse despite her history with him, and she bravely fought in the Battle of Manhattan to defend Camp Half-Blood. Thalia is a true warrior, and she belongs in Gryffindor in my opinion. Next is Tyson, Percy's half-brother. He's an absolute place to Hufflepuff. Tyson is just the kindest and sweetest character in the series. He loves his friends and family, and he would do anything for them. He'd also fight for them and stay with them until the very end. He's a true Hufflepuff. Okay, so we're down to the last two. Will Solus is next, and he belongs in Hufflepuff. I don't even know about you guys, but I actually considered placing Will in Gryffindor simply because he showed immense bravery to save everyone in the Battle of Manhattan. He had to stand up for the Apollo cabin after losing the previous head counselors, and he managed to keep the team together. He was brave enough to fight for a bit in the final battle against Gaia too, but I realized that he did all this because he was loyal and kind enough to fight for his friends and family. Will is open to a lot of people and even befriended and fell in love with Nico D'Angelo, a general outcast in camp. Will looks on the brighter side of things and loves the people around him so much that he'd do anything for them, just like any other Hufflepuff. With this, I'm placing him there. Last but not the least is Zoe Nightshade from PJO. I'm placing her in Gryffindor. Zoe is one of the bravest people in the Riordanverse. She managed to lead the Hunters of Artemis and fight against her father. Like, it takes great skill to do both of that, and she was a warrior until the very end. And that's all the characters I'll sort for today. Tune in for part 2 on sorting Riordanverse characters, where I'll go over characters in the King Chronicles and the Magnus Chase series. So how about you? How would you sort these characters? Let me know in the comments down below.